think it was my therapist who told me, well, you never, like, you don't know how to fail.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that can be scary. And we don't want our kids to not know how to fail. Like,
No.
like now when they mess up, I'm like so happy because I know they're going to learn from it.
Yes.
And I know I
Yes,
didn't
they'll
have
learn how
that.
to do better, and they'll also learn that it's not the end of the world if they don't
Exactly.
succeed the
Yeah.
first time. Katia Vlachos is a coach and an author of a new book called Uncaged. Raised in a traditional Greek family, Katia's early years were spent trying to please others as the perfect daughter and student. I'm thinking a few of you listening will recognise this description. I do. She often found ways to embrace her rebellious spirit, though, including sneaking out at night and driving off into the sunset on the back of her boyfriend's Harley Davidson. I don't recognise that bit. I wish I did. As she grew up, Katia became more weighed down by this good girl persona she tried to live up to, until one day, when she was in her 40s, she faced the reality that the life she was living had been designed to make other people happy, not herself. We're going to talk about that and how she's turned that around for herself and what she advises parents do with their own teenagers. Katia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Helen.
No, this is a topic that I think so many people are going to be interested in. So it was a no-brainer for me to have this conversation with you. I recognise the good girl thing. That's how I got validation. That's how I got attention. And so that's what I did. And I was doing it all my life. And I still have a knee jerk that says, do that. And then I've learned to have another voice that kicks in and goes, is that really what you want to do? Clearly, when you were young, you had that voice because you did those things.
It was a very, very modest voice, right? It would just like show up and then go back into hiding.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it was there. It was there. And I'm glad it stayed there. And I didn't just rebel in my teens. I rebelled like way later than I should have, right? Because what happens when you don't rebel as much in your teens, it doesn't disappear. At least from my experience, right? It comes out later. So,
absolutely. I've been there too, but we won't talk about that. Let's talk about your teenage years.
Sure.
What was it like growing up for you? And then what did you become aware of for yourself as a teenager?
So, I mean, like you said, I was very good. I learned early on, and of course I didn't realize that until like I write in the book in my 40s that I just learned that I had to excel. And what you talk about, how you get appreciation and acknowledgement. My meditation teacher, David G, has this great expression for it. It was my winning formula, right? I realized that if I did that, I would get certain things.
Yeah.
And that was my method, and it worked at the time. So it just stayed with me, and I never questioned it. So I had to be, good at everything. I was the best student. I was, got into, great university, got the great jobs afterwards. At home, yes, of course I was, I'm sure if you ask my parents, they'll say that I was difficult as a teenager, but really compared to what was going on around me, I really wasn't that difficult. No, I was quite, I was understanding and considerate. And also where I grew up as a girl, you get all these, subtle messages to, you have to self-sacrifice. You have to put others' needs ahead of your own. You have to, be everything to everyone, and otherwise you're selfish. Yeah. And given that I was called selfish, quite often that was probably the rebellious side showing up. Then I was called selfish. Then I would kind of be like,
yes,
it really shouldn't be like that, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing being called selfish could trigger a little bit of anger and defiance. Is that what happened for you?
Yes. And at the same time, sadly, I owned it, right? I kind of surrendered to that label.
What did that look like?
Well, you kind of, there's a lot of self-criticism, I guess. Like the inner critic is really strong, right? If you do this, you're selfish. If you put your needs first, you're selfish if you do something for yourself. So
Okay.
so there's always this kind of second guessing myself or comparing myself to others.
Yeah.
And
Sounds like some shame.
yeah, exactly. That's what it was. And I mean, I say that, and of course, I'm not angry at my parents, or I'm not blaming my parents for that. As parents, we do what
Mhm.
we can, given where we are,
Mm.
given our state of, our level of consciousness and our own baggage.
Yeah.
But the outcome was that I really internalized all these beliefs about what I needed to do to
Yeah.
to be acknowledged and appreciated, to be good, to um,
Yeah.
yeah, to get people to pay attention to me and all that.
Yeah.
So
And it's so easy as parents to do that with kids, right? And it's not just us actually, because as soon as our kids go to school, they're being told they don't have to be perfect, but they have to try their hardest every time they do something. Even that
yes,
is an extreme form of performance anxiety that kicks in. Did I try my hardest? Oh no, I didn't. Oh right, okay, then I'm a bad person.
yeah, yeah, and like you said, as parents, we often reinforce that.
And we
I
do
mean,
because we want our kids to do
to do their
well,
best.
to be able to live independently, to have a good job, and so they've got to be successful in their studies, and we set them up for it right from the beginning. What I mean, I'm jumping right ahead to the bit that I do next, and we still haven't finished this bit, but I'm going to do it anyway. What should we be doing? What is the best way to support our kids to do their best, but not feel terrible about themselves when for some reason they choose not to?
Yeah. Well, let me preface this by saying we are doing our best as parents, and there are multitude of ways that we can mess up our kids. And I think I tick several boxes here, despite best intentions, right?
Yeah. And we
Uh,
feel guilty about that as well. So the whole
yes, of
thing
course.
is a snowball.
Yeah, because if you let go, you'll be like, oh my God, this is going to be even worse if I'm not aware of all the
Yeah.
ways
Oh, I'm
I
such a
messed
bad
them up,
parent.
right? So we need to be alert all the time in our minds. Um, there's what we tell our kids, and there's what we do, and
Uh-huh.
and we know that what we do is even more powerful. It's how we behave. If my kid comes in and sees me at my computer after dinner, trying to finish something because I have a deadline, or preparing something for the next day, what are they going? I mean,
Yeah.
what are they going to think? They're going to think this is okay,
Yeah.
right? And I can't say I don't do that ever. I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
So this is what we're modeling. If our kids see us, being stressed about work, or being stressed about missing a deadline, or um, working on weekends. I mean, all these they're not so little things, right? So
Yeah.
how can we help that? I mean, we can start with ourselves and question our own behavior and our own
Yeah.
beliefs, what's required here. And like you said, when the voice comes up, it's like, is this good for me? But also, is this really mine? Like, is this my story? Or is this the remnants of the stuff we've absorbed? And of course we've moved beyond that, but they're still there. They still,
Yeah.
occasionally will show up. I certainly feel that. And I wrote the book about it. But there are
Yeah.
moments when I'm like, are you like going back in the cage right now? What's going on? At least we get better at catching ourselves, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So, well, we were talking about this before we started recording. That this isn't a realization, the work, a fix, and then we're done. This is with us for life. This is who we were trained to be as young people. So we, not by anybody's, as you said, not because it's of anyone's fault, but just the way people are. None of us is perfect, but we've inherited this way of being. So it's with us for life. So is it about awareness, just noticing what we're doing, and it's asking, is it serving us, and just shifting ourselves a little bit?
yeah. So the part about reflecting on ourselves is definitely about awareness, and I say it a lot that we have to be constantly alert to potential, I call them cages, but they're, the ways we limit ourselves that are not really ours, or the external beliefs
Right.
and patterns we've
Yeah.
observed. And I think even if you feel like you're the most uncaged person there is, there's still going to be moments in your path where you're going to notice. So better to be alert and to always question and to always ask, is this mine? Is this serving me? Am
Mm.
I limiting myself here for no reason? Is this aligned with what's important to me, with my values? And so just being constantly aware, I think, really helps,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it interrupts this like autopilot way of functioning. And like you said, these are very, very deep patterns and beliefs. Of course, it's very hard to get rid of them, but that's okay, right? The point is to know when they show up and to be able to choose differently, because that's in our power. Like making a
Yeah.
different choice is in our power. And that way we're also showing to our children,
Yeah.
right, how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
I think
ahead.
that's what I was trying to say in a much less eloquent way than you just said it. And that's probably because I skipped ahead. So let's skip back. You talked about cages, and the book is called Uncaged. Where did that come from? Tell us a little bit about the cages, what they are, and how what they mean for you.
Mhm. So cages, again, I say cages are in our minds, right? They're very rarely external limitations. They're more how we see the world, how we interpret the world, how we, like I said, the winning formulas we have in our minds that that influence how we show up. So cages are all the ways in which we limit ourselves by ourselves. And so the good news is that we also have the power to choose differently, as long as we realize what those cages are. So and yeah, they're very old and very solid,
Yeah, yeah.
and we're able to dismantle them, and it is possible.
Right. I think that's the key, because I'm imagining a cage that someone else has got the lock and the key to, but that's not it,
That's
right?
not it. No, we have the key. We totally have the key. But if you don't know there's a cage around you, what are you going to do about it, right?
Okay. Right.
So many of us go through life not realizing what
Mm.
the cages are, not realizing when we're on autopilot, or
Mm.
behaving in certain patterned ways, or having certain beliefs that influence our behavior without us even
Mm.
noticing. I
Mm.
mean, I see it all the time in my work. When I ask certain questions, and I ask people to to identify the belief, and then we question the belief, and we're like, is this really true? Do you
Yeah.
still believe that? Like, or did this, like, where's this coming from?
Yes.
All these kinds of questions are really useful.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah, as you
imagining
notice.
that cages are different for different people. What did and you've got more than one cage in.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
okay.
like,
So what did they
well, they're
represent for
the
you?
bars. They're the bars of
The
the
bars
cage,
of the
right? You can see it
cage.
as that, right? There's many
Yeah,
bars.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What were the key ones that stood out for you?
Yeah. So, as we discussed, everything around being good. So,
Yeah.
self-sacrifice, being kind of false modesty or forced modesty. Yeah, not prioritizing yourself. Another very common cage, I think almost everybody has that, is not feeling good enough,
Yeah.
right? Or smart enough, or capable enough, or
Mhm.
whatever. All the enoughs are common cages.
Mm.
I speak to women's cages very much because that's my experience.
Uh-huh.
But since the book came out, or since I started talking about this, I've had a lot of men reach out and be like, "This really resonates," because men have their own cages, right? Maybe they're not as extreme as ours, but they're still there. There's I can think of the cage to always be strong, and be the
Yes.
one who supports,
Yeah.
and be able to control your emotions. There's a lot around control and
Mm.
strength, and all the stereotypes. Those can be very limiting
Yeah.
to men as well. So I don't want to exclude anyone from from these. I think we all have
Yeah.
them. Any beliefs you've been raised with. you have to always work really hard and, do your
Yeah.
best. You have to always, be the best, excel. Again, so many
Yeah.
beliefs.
Not have feelings, not cry, not
Yeah.
complain. Oh, there's
Not
so many.
complain. That's such a good one. Yes, I know. Sorry.
Okay, so I guess the trick is for people to identify what the bars in their cage is.
Mm.
First of all, what they are rather, and then what do they do about it to escape the cage and be uncaged? I guess I'm going to tell people to read your book, but give us a bit of a flavor.
Sure. So the book is my story, but there's also, there's a way you do this, and it's practice, and it takes time, right? It starts with being aware. Okay, this is my list. Right? These are the things that I would, that don't serve me right now. They don't really belong to me. I don't want in my life because they're limiting me. They're holding me back from being
Yeah.
and achieving what I want, and being aligned with what's important. The next step is, you just notice when they show up. You just notice when they influence what you do. When you
Mhm.
um I don't know, you want to go on a weekend with your friends, but you're like, oh, I don't know, I shouldn't leave my family for 2 days,
Mhm,
whatever,
mhm,
like, I
mhm.
don't know why this came up, but it's like when you feel guilty. Guilt is a really good indicator, especially for us women, right? When you feel guilty for wanting to do something, for considering
Okay.
something, why is this happening? What am I
Okay, that's
telling myself?
good to know because that was one of my questions was how did you realize that this wasn't serving you, that it wasn't yours, that it was something that had been put on you by external forces and experiences in life, and that you could let it go. But guilt
Yeah,
was a
well,
key thing.
it is a key thing, and I can tell you a very specific example. I mean, I had a lot of guilt as a parent because I had this idea of what a good mother does.
Right. You're
and
speaking
and
my
when I was
language.
exactly right. So if I would go away for a weekend, that didn't fit
Okay.
with that image. And there's a scene in the book where, I talked to my now husband, before we were married, and he's like, and I was saying how, oh, I did this and that doesn't make me a very good parent, especially as, I was reflecting on my divorce, a lot of guilt around that, right? What am I
Right.
doing to my children?
Hmm.
And then he was like, but you're such an amazing parent, you're such a good parent. And I'm like, how do you see that? Like,
Hmm.
why? And so he started telling me why. I was like, oh, okay, I hadn't thought about it this way. He's like, oh, you're always present with your children. You're their secure base. They always know they can come to you, right? It doesn't matter if I go away for the weekend. My kids know that I'm there for them, even if I'm
Hmm.
away. I mean, my kids, they're studying abroad. They will call me for things where I'm like, I am so far away. Like, I don't know how I can help you, but I'm here for you,
Yeah.
right?
Well, just
Uh,
another bar in the cage, isn't it? Just not being able to see what's good about ourselves, only picking out the things that we can criticize.
Yeah, because maybe we learned that's how we get better, right? So maybe we
Right.
learned that if we
Yeah.
tap
Yeah.
ourselves on the back, that's not going to help us improve. That's going to
Yeah.
make us lazy.
Yeah. Just have to keep impressing people and being the good girl, like you said.
Right. So I mean, it's good to see it because it allows us to see it in our children if that's the case. And it's
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
definitely been the case for me where I've been like, ooh, okay, I need to do something here. Because we don't put pressure on our kids anymore. I think most of us are aware of what pressure can do, or a lot of us.
Hmm.
But they put pressure on themselves very
They
often,
do. They really do.
and that's a tougher one, I think,
Yeah.
because you can
Well,
stop doing, but
yeah,
they
but I
are, yeah.
blame myself for that because I must have got it wrong somewhere along the line. I've got two academically very strong kids, and I see them getting very stressed trying to meet deadlines and be the best they
Same,
can be. And
yeah,
I think, "Wow, shit, did I create that?" And I do have to remind myself, I think this is important for parents to remember, they are also individuals with their own temperaments and their own ways of doing things in the world, and we're going to do some of those things irrespective of how they were parented because it's in their personality, it's in their genes. But
Yeah.
then that's my fault as well, because they've got my genes.
Okay, definitely not your fault. I don't think you can control.
I know, isn't it mad?
Yeah, but yes, there's a part that belongs to us, and there's the personality, and there's all the, the outside, the external influence. Oh my God, what we see, these
Exactly.
days is scary. Right?
Yeah,
There's
well,
so
they're
much pressure.
connected, they're online, they see a lot, but also their teachers
Their
are not
teachers, the
perfect, and their
schools.
friendships are not perfect, and that's normal.
Yeah, yeah, and they'll have to find their way, and we'll do our bit, right? We can do our bit if we're aware of what's going on from our side, but we can't control everything. So, but there
Yeah.
are things we can do if we see this,
Yeah,
right?
tell me.
So,
Tell me.
well, I remember a piece of advice that I thought was great by a child psychologist, because one of my sons, we were doing some sort of assessment for school, and we got the message that he's putting a lot of pressure on himself, and we're like, okay, what can we do? And like, well, what really helps is you have one day a week where you try something new and you fail. Like all of us in the
Mm.
family, we will try something new where we're not something we're super comfortable with, not something we know how to do well, but something we don't know how to do. And that increases the likelihood of us failing. And then, it normalizes failure for them, also teaches them resilience, how to bounce back.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an artificial, situation
Yeah.
where they feel like they don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Right, because it's hard to do that at school. You can't tell them, I don't study for this exam.
Yeah. No.
I think we'd find that really hard to do. I would.
What are some of the
But
things you've done?
so I try to be more vocal about when I mess things up. And I
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Right. And I talk about it. I was like, what did I do here? How did I do? So, before maybe I wouldn't have made it such a big deal. Now I can amplify it. And I'm not very good about the not working, like the boundaries. I need to work on that one, like having clear boundaries between, like, okay, when I finish work and when it's
All
like really
right.
family
Okay.
time. I think
Showing
that
your
would
kids
help.
that you rest and you prioritize yourself.
Yeah, so I do rest, but I'm definitely not like where I want to be with that. So that would be another one. That's one of my
Well, even just
my
admitting
goals.
that and saying that out loud, I've still got things that I'm not perfect at, and
That's a good one.
and that's
Yes.
okay.
Thank you, Ellen. I will do that. Thank you. Thank you for my own medicine. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So just showing. Also, in my case, my kids have seen how I had to I had to reinvent myself, and I talk about that. And I had a very successful first career. I had to drop everything and then start over and really be a beginner and learn. And they see me and they see how it's not always easy to build something new, and
Yeah.
there's frustration, and there's celebration also. So I'm hoping that that's also a role model of how you're learning and growing, growth mindset, and you can fail and then learn from that, and and evolve, and you're not there from day one, because the first career, they were young and I was already doing well. They didn't see me kind of go through the whole
Yeah.
process. So anything that shows you starting and learning and growing, I think is a good model. I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because they compare so much to external perfection, like what you see on social media. They compare
know.
people who are already somewhere. They don't always see the backstory.
What the struggle was and the striving to get there.
No.
And the failures. And there's this great podcast. I don't think she runs it anymore, but Elizabeth Day, do you know her? She's a British journalist. And she used to have a podcast called How to Fail. And what she says in the introduction is because learning how to fail actually means learning how to succeed better.
Yes.
Right? Because
100%.
like figuring out what we did that didn't work just sets us up to do it differently next time, and then eventually you're going to hit the way that does work.
That's so true. That's so true. And I like for me, that really hits home because I was told, and I never failed, right? I never failed until
Mm.
until my divorce, really. That was like my biggest failure. And
Wow.
I remember it was I think it was my therapist who told me, well, you never like you don't know how to fail.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that can be scary.
Yes.
And we don't want our kids to not know how to fail.
No.
Like now when they mess up, I'm like so happy because I know they're gonna learn from it.
Yes.
And I know I
Yes,
didn't
they'll
have
learn how
that.
to do better, and they'll also learn that it's not the end of the world if they don't
Exactly.
succeed the
Yeah.
first time. I remember someone saying, well, lots of people I've heard say this actually, that sometimes the first time a child fails, and it's not true, but the first time they're aware of failing is when they fail their driving test, which happens to a lot of people, right? Not many people pass first time round. I did.
Yeah.
Um,
Of
but
course you did. I did too. We're special.
But my daughter failed her first driving test,
Yeah.
and it was devastating because she'd
Yes.
always been so good at school. She always got good grades. She did fantastic. But of course, if you go back to the classic one that everybody recounts is if you go back to a baby learning to crawl and then walk, they didn't succeed the first time. They had failed hundreds of times at learning to
Right.
walk before they eventually got it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they learn to walk, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's the reason. Yeah. I mean, the earlier they fail, the better. But
yeah.
yeah, I couldn't agree on the driver's test is a really good example. And
Yeah, it's a classic.
when there's an incident like that, I will be like, so what did you learn? And they'll be like, Mom, leave me alone.
Yeah, yeah,
Stop
of course.
coaching me.
Go, yeah, you failed, well done.
Trying, yeah. Yeah. But
Oh, um, yeah. Is there anything else in the book that that would really that you need to kind of highlight that's worth telling the listeners, or are we at the point of saying where do people go get this book? Tell us the full title.
so like the book is in short, and you describe it so eloquently. I think I need to get you to give me your description because I really like it. It's just like really gives a really good picture. It's yeah, how it starts from zero actually because I wasn't caged when I was really young, and then it shows the process of how I entered the cage. How
Right.
I internalized all these different patterns. Doesn't explain why. It will explain in the end. There's a reason why I did. There's usually a reason why we adopt our winning formula. That's why we get
Okay.
in a cage. So
Mm.
and it shows how that set of beliefs and patterns really influenced all my choices going forward because it didn't
Hmm.
stop at school or at work. It was also my first marriage. It was how I did
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
in life, my friendships, everything. And then it shows, okay, what was the breaking point or the turning point, and how I decided to, how I realized how I'd taken on so much from the outside,
Mm.
and how I kind of took the leap. And the way this happens is like, it doesn't have to be like one like giant bold move. It's you take one decision and then you see, oh, okay, like nothing devastating happened. Like I could
Yeah.
handle it. Like you said, you fail and you realize it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
You take the decision and then you take the next one and then you take the next one and they build up and then you build the confidence and then you take bigger and bigger steps and that's how you get out, right?
Mm. Mhm.
And it's also really, because the cages are in our minds, it's a lot around the mindset of I can do this, it's my choice, right? I
Mhm.
have the choice. Very often we
Mm.
think we're powerless and we get into this victim mindset, and I was very much a victim for a long time.
Okay.
And just realizing that and deciding to not be a victim anymore, deciding I'm not going to blame others anymore for what's happening
Right.
here.
Mhm.
I'm going to own it, and I'm good. But that also means I can get out and I can do my thing
Mm.
because I'm
Mm.
owning that as well.
Mm. It's a brave
So it's
decision,
kind
isn't
of
it? Because
a
blaming others is easier, but it's what keeps you shut away, locked
stuck
down, stuck. Yeah, exactly.
completely,
Yeah.
completely, and it's super easy. But once you decide, like once you see that, I don't think you can unsee it. I don't think you can
Ah,
fall back in that pattern ever again. And then you start
right.
seeing it in others. It gets very irritating, actually.
Yeah.
But 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 once you realize you've been a victim and you get out of it, the good news is you don't go back
Yeah.
because you've seen how different.
You take
life
control
is.
of all the things that happen to you and choose how to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, you see what you can control and what it's also very liberating because you can focus on that, and the stuff you can't control, you can
Let
kind of
it go.
accept and let go of.
Yeah. No, really good point. So the full title of the book is Uncaged. Is it just Uncaged?
It's Uncaged, A Good Girl's Journey to Reinvention.
That's it. Yes. I love that bit.
So you got the good girl this month.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's available everywhere. Is it in paperback?
It came out. It came out 1st of October. It's right now, if you go on like the major distributors, I would recommend the paperback.
Okay.
Because it gets to you faster. We've had a couple of issues with a hardcover. Hardcover is very beautiful though.
Buy the paperback.
And I would go for the paperback. And there's of course the ebook as well for people who want to read on a screen.
Yeah.
But both are available. Amazon. I don't know, in the UK.
Cool.
What else? But
I will put links in the show notes. And is there anywhere that people can connect with you if they want to follow along with more of your hints and tips?
Absolutely. I am very active on LinkedIn, so please connect with me, Katia Vlachos, very easy. My website is always a good place, or everything. So it's katiavlachos.com. Again, very easy, one word. Katia Vlachos. Uncaged.net is the website of the book. But if you go to my website, you'll find also the link to the book, and everything is there. So,
perfect.
And I'm also on Instagram.
Same handle?
Katia.Vlachos. Again, very easy. So all these places, can't miss me.
Perfect. I will put links for that in the show notes for all those things. So when you finish listening, just scroll down and hit the links. Katia, it's been really, really fun talking to you. I need to read the book. I'm kind of there, but never hurts to have a refresh.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yes, please do. I'll make sure you have time because people tell me they can't stop and then they kind of
I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine it's a page turner.
What can I say? I didn't know that, but people are saying that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Well, thank you for having me. Love the conversation. So,
thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please give it a rating on your podcast app. And if you know someone who might benefit from listening, do share it with them. It also means a lot when you give me feedback. So if you have comments or suggestions for another episode, or know someone who'd like to tell their story on the Teenage Kicks podcast, do get in touch at helen@helenwills.com, or come and find me on my blog, actuallymommy.co.uk. Head over there now for more articles on the joys, and there are many, of parenting a teenager. Bye for now.